Welcome everyone to the NFC Crüe Roundtable post schedule drop edition, I guess you'd call it. We're going to join the cheesiness of everyone else. Like, we're going to get into the schedule, go over what we think are the best games in the first 9 weeks. Thanks to the NFL, that's about the halfway point because they can't keep it symmetrical and give us an actual halfway point in the season. So with me today, I have Eye Candy Andy. He's going to bring you all your Chicago Bears and NFC North news. And we got the Packer backer, Brian Robinson. He likes the Bears too. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
So, the NFL is making a show out of everything. The schedule drops a big deal now. I mean, it's doing more than its share of pulling in, viewership and getting the hype going for the season. But what do you guys?
Well, it's almost like they're making it so they can make billions and billions of dollars.
They're almost there.
It's almost like a business.
Once they get on our level. But so that schedule's dropped. The schedule had been written months prior. The Tom Brady announcement that, hey, I think I'm going to play again. Had to rewrite the schedule. I think there's 4-5 teams now with 5 primetime games. The Bears actually got a primetime game this year, which is shocking. Pac's got, 4? Or do they have 5 as well? I think the Bucs, Steelers, Chiefs, and maybe the Pack have 5 primetime games?
No, Pack looks to me like 4.
4, okay. I don't remember who the other teams are. I guess I should have done a little more research. But so
the Bears, for example, all games that they play are in primetime. Every single one.
Yeah, on VHS when it mattered. All right, so let's get into the Bears, Packers, the boredom that is the NFC North. Oh, that was fascinating.
Yay.
What's going on up north, gentlemen?
Well, if you want to start with the Bears, of course, have been quite active during the month of May, just like pretty much the rest of the year they've been. The Nick Foles era in Chicago has come to an end as of the 1st of May. I just don't think he unfortunately didn't have the tools, similar like Jay Cutler, similar to several other quarterbacks. He just simply didn't have the tools to be able to go to his actual set of skills. Kind of sort of typical, unfortunately, with the Bears lately. But the Bears literally have, probably about 20 different deals that they actually released. Jesper Worstead, of course, brought him back. Might have been an injury thing. Now he's on the IR, unable to the PUP list, unable to perform. But, I mean, there were just so many different things that the Bears have been actually up to. And one of the reasons why I have several predictions have the Bears at 3-13, and so one of the reasons why I don't necessarily agree with that is because they're not necessarily finding those big-name players. They're finding players that are, team players, those who actually fit within the team.
They're fitting the 3-year plan. I'm telling you.
And so
everyone thinks I'm joking.
Well, think you have your marquee players. Take like a Tom Brady, for example, and Aaron up in Green Bay. Okay, so you have marquee players, fine. But then who do you have around them right now? Take Tom Brady, for example. He actually made some of those players down there household names, just simply by the overall play. But they may not have been your tier 1 guys where they're big major names. Now they are. But now they fit within that skill set. They fit within that actual team paradigm, and that's exactly what the Bears are trying to do here. And I don't necessarily think that the Bears are going to do 3-13. I don't think they're going to be doing 500 perhaps. However, I think they're going to be a lot better than what people are predicting. Green Bay, conversely, I don't necessarily think is going to be doing quite as well. And it's probably once they do finally kind of hit their stride, you're going to be looking halfway through. Quarter of the season is going to be done by the time that actually that actually really fully gets shooting on all jets there. So
you got them winning what, 8.5, 9 games?
they're gonna be winning 8.5, 3.5, 9-8 games.
I mean, the first. Let's look at the Bears real quick. We'll just go into the first 9 games of their season, right?
Right.
Let me see if I can get this. Can you read that okay? You got the Niners. I honestly think the Bears could possibly sneak one over the Niners.
That's an easy win.
I don't know if I'd say easy, but you got a new regime coming in. You're going to have all the hype of an opening game in Chicago. Excuse me. Chicago is a Bears city. I mean, you might eke one out there. You go to Green Bay. Go ahead.
Well, given that Jerry isn't here, he'll even agree with me that the Bears are going to win that easily.
I did hear him say that in the pregame chat.
I think so, yes.
And then we go to Green Bay.
Green Bay, I think, is going to be a perfect storm for us. We're probably going to be coming in right when they're still kind of within their flux, and that might end up being – I personally think it's going to be a victory, but it probably it could conceivably be a close loss. Now, conversely, when they're back in Chicago, both teams will probably be firing a little bit more on all cylinders, and I think that'll be a better game, and hopefully the Bears will be able to pull that one out as well.
The thing with the Green Bay, right? You're going up to Green Bay. That's not a slouch team by any means, even though they don't have but one 75-year-old receiver in Randall Cobb. I mean, everyone else is pretty much unproven. You got a rookie that's coming in that's going to have to prove his wares. The Bears' defensive backfield isn't anything to brag about, but they're not facing anyone really you got to worry about. But I really don't think that game is going to be close, Andy. I'm sorry. I got the Pack at least by 10 there.
Yeah, no, I think it might be a combination of a couple of things. You working too much and perhaps on some sort of like illegal narcotic, whatever the case might be. But I just don't think that the Packers are going to have that amount of time to be able to actually get to that point. You're only looking like, you have your 4 or 7 or 12, 19, whatever, how many preseason games they play this year. Then, of course, you still have to actually get within your first game. You actually go through your first game, okay? Then now you have the Bears coming into town, which, of course, they're going to be in the same situation that the Packers are going to be in. But there will be an opportunity for the Packers not necessarily being the Packers and the Bears, hopefully being on the plus side of not being the Bears.
I mean, you look at it, that Green Bay game could be your first loss of the season, but then I think you can go possibly you win versus the Texans. You're at home again there. You go to New York. New York's still kind of a quagmire to me. I really don't know what's going on with New York. I mean, you got Saquon Barkley that's supposed to be coming back. Is he going to be in full stride by then? You got Daniel Jones throwing dimes to the opposition. I mean, that's definitely a game you could possibly win there. You got Minnesota, who's got Kirk Cousins, who all he seems to do is win just enough, but never the big ones. So maybe you lose there. You can win in Washington. You can win against Washington at home. You got New England, Dallas, and Fins to round out the top 9. I mean, it's not a rough go for you as a Bears fan. It's definitely something to be optimistic about.
So looking at that particular schedule, you got to think that the only team that we may have some issue with is the Buffalo Bills. Other than that, you might be looking at undefeated. Because you're looking at the Texans, you're looking at Dallas, Miami, Minnesota, the Jets, Green Bay.
In all actuality, in all honesty, the Bears are probably going to struggle week 14. They might not come out of that week healthy. And then it's, the rest of the season, it's all going to depend on how they do in that bye.
I think they'll win.
Brian, you got any thoughts on this? I mean, I know you guys watch each other's teams closely, especially with you being in the Chicagoland area. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if we're going just the first 9, I mean, I'll tell you what, I I love the fact that they open with San Francisco at home because I don't think San Francisco knows what the hell they're doing. I mean, if it's Trey Lance starting at quarterback, I mean that's kind of a gamble already for that team. And I mean, in the Bears with new offense, with new coaching, a lot of new pieces, I think it'd be interesting. I think this would be a good first game for them to get their feet wet as a team. I think the game at Lambeau, I do agree. I think it could be a closer game than everybody thinks because everybody forgets Green Bay's basically starting over with new receivers. I mean, yeah, is Cobb on the team? Yeah, but he's old. He's not going to play, more than like 30% of the snaps. Then they get, I mean, I think the Bears actually have a favorable shot to be, at least in my opinion, around 500. With the way I look at it. I mean, none of these teams are eye-popping that will be saying that they'll get drubbed. I mean, they could easily beat the Giants. The Vikings, they always seem to play tough. The Commanders is kind of sketchy. The only games that I see of the Bears in the first 9 that they have no shot at, I believe, is going to be the game at New England, the game at Dallas.
Yeah, that's New England and Dallas. We can actually look at like historical and maybe even take our home benches or whatever the case might be. But if you're looking to go to Washington, at Washington, that's going to be like a hit or miss. Because even last year, for example, you know how you have your quarterback who's going to be throwing 4 touchdowns, fantastic, or he's going to throw 6 interceptions. It just depends on the week. And if you pressure him just like you pressure everybody else, which the Bears are not. They don't have Khalil Mack anymore, of course, but you do have Robert Quinn. You got a couple of rookies that could be making some type of noise. As long as you get pressure, and Aaron Rodgers in particular, as long as you give him, the old happy feet, so to speak. And yes, we're going to be doing the old team soapbox thing. But as long as you give Aaron Rodgers the old happy feet, you're going to be able to get maybe 1 or 2 plays. Maybe even up to like 5 to 6 plays throughout the game to where he's going to be able to have an opportunity to make a mistake, which the Bears would have an opportunity to be able to capitalize on. So you take that into account, and there is a strong possibility. The first game, I definitely think the Bears have more than an average chance of actually pulling out a victory there. By the time the season wears on, there is a strong possibility that the cream, so to speak, will actually rise to the top, and maybe Aaron Rodgers will be able to have his team pretty much squared away. His receivers will actually know what their routes are. They'll know, break off when you do this. They'll know their hot reads of the whole enchilada, to where when they come into Chicago, they're either going to get blown out or they're going to blow out the Bears. It's just one of those things. So there is a strong possibility that it'll play out that way. The Bears will probably end up 500, maybe even 1 game above 500. In all honesty, I do see trouble with Dallas. I do see trouble with New England because, they have teams that are more established. You have a couple of new pieces within those teams, but what you really have in general is a lot of the same core people, quarterback, running back, your tight ends, wide receivers, things like that. So if you're looking at actual, I'm thinking 500, maybe even a game above 500.
You can't be mad with that as a Bears fan.
As a good fan, as a Bears fan, yeah. Naturally, every day I say the Bears are going to go undefeated. However, it's going to be one of those things where I see a 500 team this year.
Right on. Let's let Brian have his moment in the sun here.
Moment in the sun.
We're looking at the Green Bay schedule. You open against Kirk Cousins. Take us where you think we're headed here.
All right. I think that first game as a newer offense, so to speak, with the weapons, Minnesota always plays tough at home. I actually see the Packers losing the first game.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, if you look at last year, how the Packers opened up with their guys against the Saints, I mean, they looked absolutely horrible, absolutely just not on page. Now, granted, it all depends on if Aaron will actually come into camp and really work with these guys. That's going to be key. But I just think right at the start, I don't know. I'm not confident. that they'll be a completely established ball club on the offensive side to compete against Minnesota. I think Minnesota will win. Now, would they come home for the home opener against the Bears? Obviously, Sunday Night Football, all the fanfare. The Bears. It's kind of an interesting situation because, again, like as we would talk about, the Bears got new coaching, new everything. It's they could easily come in there and shock people. I don't see, but in my opinion, I don't see the Bears winning. It's just there's just two different teams, and I think it'll be a close game. But then they go to Tampa, and I don't see them winning that game either.
I don't either.
They've always had problems against Tampa. In being week 3, I don't think they'll be established enough as a receiving core to really showcase anything. And honestly, it just scares me whenever you go to Tampa because they're just that good. So,
well, I mean, you got new receivers, right? You're not going to try to run the ball, so that's pretty much out of the question. Because for some reason, it's in everyone's head you can't run against the Buccaneers. However, the teams that beat the Bucs establish themselves on the ground to some extent, right?
Right.
But the Bucs secondary had one good season, fell off last year. They're new too. I mean, it's a game that's definitely winnable if you're Green Bay. I mean,
well, let me ask you this now.
What's that, Andy?
So let me ask you this. You were talking about being a new team and things like that. So naturally, the Bears actually had their old coach, of course, for several years. And so Green Bay, just take that for the example, they actually knew what to expect from that particular coaching staff. So that might have been one of the reasons why Aaron Rodgers had so much success, very simply because you know exactly what you're going to be getting. Year in, year out, game in, game out. You're going to have the same type of offense, same type of defense. It's just the players are going to be your intangibles to where, they're going to be able to, of course, produce more or less. So now with the fact that the Bears have an entirely new staff and entirely new everything, now do you think that there's going to be more success on the Bears side only because they don't know what to expect? Or is there going to be less success because they don't know what to expect? Green Bay, that is.
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I go back to Nagy's first year, and they went up to Green Bay, and they were giving them all kinds of fits for
we don't use names
most
around
of their
here.
game. I know it's bad juju, but I mean when they went up there and they had Trubisky starting, they looked rather tough, and it took a miracle of Aaron Rodgers to bring them back. And I mean, in all honesty, that was kind of a wake up call for the Pack. That game was, because it was similar early season game. It was a Sunday night game. I think the Bear, in terms of the newness of everything. I mean, the only thing that I will say is that the Packers defense, in my opinion, got better in the offseason, and that may be that may be the part of the team that carries Green Bay until the offense gets clicking. And
you did have a few key defensive players depart, so I mean,
but they drafted really well defensively.
They always draft defensively.
There are certain teams you can almost guarantee would be drafting defense.
So you got them losing to Minnesota.
I got them losing to Minnesota.
Winning against the Bears, losing to the Bucs.
Then they got New England at home. I think, once again, another close game. I think the Packers will pull that out. Then they go to London against the Giants. This is actually a game that kind of scares me a little bit because when you travel to London, teams don't look the same when they go play out there. I mean, things get sloppy. And, the Giants could look at this as an opportunity to say, we could beat these guys because they're not at their place. We're not in the States. They had to travel the same distance. They had to travel the same location. The game scares me a little bit on that respect. I think the Packers will win? Yes, but could they lose that game just because of the fact they're traveling to London, doing all this? Absolutely. I think that could be a trap. Then they come back to the States and they got the Jets. So you play the New York teams back to back, and I don't see the Jets beating the Pack at all, being at Lambeau. Then Washington, I think that's a win. Then they go to Buffalo for a Sunday night game. I think Buffalo will beat them. I don't see that being anywhere close. And then they go to Detroit, and Detroit's a better team. They will be a better team, and we're talking week 9 now. I mean, could Detroit have figured something out? And that could be a close game. I still think I would still give Green Bay the W, but once again, that could be another thing, another loss. I mean, it could easily happen.
So with the division teams, in my humble opinion, brilliant opinion, but still humble, you do in fact have a bunch of rookies that are, of course, untested, unfilmed, the whole thing. So your week 1 or your first game against any particular team, they're going to have a lot more success in the second one. By this time, now they do have film. By this time, they knew how to, block and scheme and things like that. So with that being said, I mean, I can see that the Bears and the Packers game are going to be a little bit more difficult, but that might end up being a loss for the Bears, that is. Tampa, of course, that's probably going to end up being a loss, but you know what? I could even see the Packers actually pulling that one out, actually. The New York teams, unfortunately, I don't necessarily see a problem there. Dallas, you might have a little bit of a problem. Buffalo is probably going to end up being a loss on your side. But when you're going to Detroit, so not only do you have Detroit playing well against the Packers, but you also got a couple of key rookie defensive players for Detroit that really might give the Packers some major issues, including that kid from Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think he's going to be like a long-term issue for the Packers, or is that going to be like the first game he's got 17 sacks, the second game we held him to 0?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, like I said, it's just everything that, obviously this is too early to truly predict until we really see some action. Obviously, injuries play a big difference and whatnot, but I mean, it is interesting, and I don't think the North is exactly the Packers division. I mean, Minnesota. I mean, if you look at the teams, the one team that didn't go through major changes is the Minnesota Vikings. And honestly, I think they added pieces to make them better. And that, to me, that as a fan, and I have seen, I've read some other things too. I have seen the Packers going in as a wild card and Minnesota winning the division. So I can see it.
Mm-hmm. So I had said early on, I think Minnesota runs that division right now, and that's only because they're the most established team as far as chemistry. Now, something could happen. You could lose a quarterback in Minnesota, and for some reason, Vikings fans think that's a good thing. I really don't agree with that, but you lose a quarterback in Minnesota, and you're back at the bottom of the barrel. Green Bay, they have Jordan Love waiting. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. I'm sorry, Brian. I'm not trying to wish any bad thing on you, but I mean, the Bears could win that division if every quarterback in the league gets injured and Jared Goff actually starts for the Lions the remainder of the year. You got a shot.
Yeah, that's theoretically a possibility.
But no, seriously, I got Minnesota, Green Bay, Chicago, Detroit. I mean, I know Andy's crying up there because he thinks it's unfair for people to pick on the Bears like we do, but 3 years. 3-year plan. I mean, Poles seems to be doing things right up there. Green Bay's window is closing. Minnesota's, I guess it's a window. I don't know what you'd call it in Minnesota because it feels like it's always shut at the last second. They're doing great, gone. Detroit's just in the backyard playing with the kiddie pool. But they're getting there. They're actually in the yard this year. So
I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily say Tampa Bay is like in that hunt anymore. If you think about it, right after Tom Brady finally does quit in the next 12 to 14 years, he's going to go to Fox and make $375 million.
That's unbelievable. Well, anyway,
that's almost as much as we're making here.
Right. So So let's touch on that real quick before we go anywhere else. Since we're already on the subject, we'll just stay on the subject. So Tom Brady, right? Fox deal, $375 million, 10 years at 37.5. I did the math, Andy. Thank you. A year.
Got no fingers?
I actually just put my sandals back on.
Remember, you can only count to 11.
I get it. I'm not going there. I'm not going there. So now does that rule out the whole Miami rumors? I mean,
do you see Miami actually coming up with a better deal?
Is it about money for Brady? Or is it about saying, okay, I just won on every continent the NFL plays on. Let me go own a team and see if I can get them into the playoffs where they haven't been successful. Then I can retire.
That's a strong possibility, but because money hasn't necessarily been an issue for Tom Brady for quite some time, that's certainly one of the reasons why, he's 87 years old and he looks like, he's in his mid-30s. So you have an opportunity to be able to, you're absolutely right. I think who was the last person to do that? The player manager type, player.
In pro sports or in the NFL? I believe in the NFL it was Hallis.
Yes.
In pro sports, wasn't it Pete?
It was just not that long ago, as a matter of fact. So you have that opportunity. However, I don't know if the rules would actually dictate the fact that, he's not an official owner until he actually retires.
Okay.
Remember we talked about that last year. You said, when is it going to get to the point where you're going to have to pay your players so incredibly much, you're going to have to start giving them percentage of the team? And even Kyler Murray, of course, with the rumors that he wants $75 million a year.
No, I get you. So say he goes for minority ownership of the Dolphins. Is he allowed to broadcast their games then? I mean, there's so much up in the air at that point.
See, yeah, that's the interesting question because, I mean, if you're just being an announcer, you're really not having, any kind of say of what's happening in the game. But I don't know if the NFL has rules on that to where you can be a minority owner of a team, but you could be in the broadcast booth,
Right.
That's a very interesting question. I don't know. I almost thought that was going to become a reality, that's what Tom wanted to do, was have some partial ownership of the team and be involved with the team as he's retired as a player. But when that news came out, when that news sprung of what Fox did, I was like, wow, and I honestly think Fox only did it because they lost their tandem and they needed somebody that will draw viewership back.
Right. Go you lose Tom or Troy Aikman, who you love him or hate him, he's good at his craft. He knows how to break down a game. I mean, but Brady's going to bring fans from pretty much everywhere because people hate him, and Bucs fans now love him, but they never loved him before. You got New England fans who still love him to this day, love Brady. So it's going to bring you more fandom to the actual broadcasts that aren't broadcasting your team. But
so let's think about it like this, with the Troy Aikman thing, he's no Tony Romo.
UCF, no.
Indeed, absolutely. Who is? But in this particular case, how with Troy Aikman, he never really had that. Naturally he's going to give you the insight, this, that, the other. But Tony Romo is kind of like on a different level to where he's going to tell you the play before. And people have actually mentioned that. And he makes a better announcer than he ever did a quarterback. And so do you actually see Tom Brady, for example? Do you see because I don't think it's really worked very well with, in baseball, where you had like Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez, where they were actually part owners of certain teams or whatever the case is. Do you see Tom Brady being a positive or a negative as a part owner?
I don't think it'll matter. I mean, it's the Dolphins. Dolphins have an established fan base. I mean, they're still resting on the 1972 undefeated season. So, I mean, their fan base is strong regardless. My cat is going crazy. I don't know if you guys can hear him.
Because the cat's telling you to get back to the schedule.
It's unbelievable. But anyway.
Well, yeah, but I'm just curious because you think Tom Brady's going to want more influence on which would be a negative. Because, I mean, Denver, for example, you had John Elway. Does he want to show up John Elway?
I mean, Elway really didn't do much in Denver. I mean, what did he get him? Is that Tim Tebow's trophy? Is it Peyton Manning's trophy? I mean, he didn't do much there. It's not. He wasn't there for his name. Elway honestly was there because they felt they owed it to him.
I'm just curious and to see if the Tom Brady effect. If that'll actually be a positive or negative, even if he does go to, like, for example, Miami.
Yeah.
Too much influence, not enough.
I don't think it'll hurt, but anyway. So we can go down south. I can take us to the warmer. We're going to skip the lesser conferences since their cohorts didn't want to be here today. So, but anyway, let's look at the Bucs schedule because it's the Bucs and everyone loves Tampa. Let me find it here. There we go. Man. So, Bucs open the season with possibly the roughest 4 games to open the season. They go to Dallas week 1. They opened against Dallas last year. I don't know if you remember, that game came down to a last-second field goal. Bucs eked that one out. Yeah, I think it might be that close again. If the Bucs defense doesn't come out with any chemistry, I think you might see some issues there. Godwin won't be there. Godwin won't be there until probably maybe the Rams game, maybe the Ravens game. But yeah, so it's going to be rough without him. You got Russell Gage that's stepping in more than likely to fill his shoes. But I think the Bucs win this one in Dallas just because it's Dallas. I mean, they find a way. They always find a way. Mike Stout can attest to it. Dallas finds a way. But anyway, then we go to the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. Jameis Winston back against his Bucs, or the Bucs, not his Bucs. But Tampa struggles in New Orleans. Every regular season they struggle with them. They've struggled at home against them. Now they're in New Orleans at their home opener. This might be a rough one for Tampa.
Even with a new coach in New Orleans?
You know what? I don't think it's the coaching, really. I think that you got a defense there that's been in place for years, that has figured out how to get to Tom Brady, has figured out how to beat this Bucs offensive line. And, I mean, unless the Bucs can come out and establish the run and control the tempo of the game, control the clock, I think it might be a struggle. And that's what they always struggle with against them, is controlling the clock and playing the game on their pace instead of New Orleans. So that one, I feel, even though I feel the Bucs could win it, I think we might take the L there as well. So we got a 1-1 going into Green Bay, Lambeau Field, or coming home to face Green Bay. Lambeau Field is not a problem for Tampa this time. I think Tampa wins this game. Home opener, NFC South champions, coming into the stadium. I think they take Green Bay. It's not impossible for Green Bay to win this game. Like I said, their young receiving core going against the Bucs secondary, who really either has got to find their way this year, or they're going to be complete changes and overhauls made. But I have the Bucs winning week 3, week 4, Kansas City in Tampa, Super Bowl rematch. Think the Bucs get this one. So one more time.
Excuse me. I disagree. Personally, I think Kansas City's going to pull that one out.
You think so? So okay, we'll go with that. We'll go. Say Kansas City does eke one out there, and somehow find a receiver to throw to. You're looking at 2-2 coming out of week 4, and I think as a Bucs fan, you got to be happy with that. You got to be happy with the idea of you're going into not the softer part of the schedule, but yeah, the softer part of the schedule. You're looking at the Falcons, the Steelers, the Panthers. The next 3 games, you should rip right through those games. Steelers might be tough being in Pittsburgh, but I think you go into the Ravens. You're now 5-2, or 4-2 going into the Ravens. Walk out of that game 5-3, and then you got the LA Rams. Week 9, looking you dead in the face. It's going to be a tough one.
Rams aren't the Rams they were last year.
You really,
you definitely have quite a few players that are not really there anymore.
They have, but look at the production of the players they lost compared to the players they have. I don't know. I mean, the Rams is going to be a tough game to win, even being at Tampa. I think they pulled the L here. I think Tampa walks away with another loss there. So 6-3 after 9. I mean, can you be mad at that? I mean, really? I mean, if you're a Bucs fan, is that something you're upset with? I can't say that I would be. I mean, coming into the season, you can't expect to win every game. You can't think that your team's not going to struggle at points. For some reason, New Orleans is always a struggle. I really don't. I don't know what it is or why they can't get over that hump. Dallas could be a loss as well. But yeah, 6-3 is where I got them.
I look past week 9. I just took a glance at past week 9. So if you start at 6-3,
right?
I mean, you look at the rest of the schedule. The teams here, to me, with the exception of the Saints and the Bengals, in my opinion, I think you could easily, the second half of the season, you can easily walk through. I mean, the Saints will always give you trouble, but you're going to be playing at Raymond James.
Yeah.
The Bengals obviously went to the Super Bowl last year. We'll see how the Bengals are this year. Did they address the issues at O-line? Are they still going to be that good? Those are the 2 teams that I mean, I see the Arizona Cardinals game, but I don't see Arizona as a team that is going to do much. I don't see it. And I think that's an easy win, but everybody else, I mean, you should be able to beat.
Oh, I agree. A game that worries me, like with you got Seattle. We have Seattle in Germany. That should be a Bucs home game. Should be a big Bucs blowout. I think that game might put some wear on them. The good thing is they got the bye after that, and then the Browns. It's nice to have that. Then roll into New Orleans in December, but.
Yeah, but you also you have to contend that, Cincinnati, love them or hate them, they may have actually should have kind of sort of pulled out the Super Bowl last year. Whatever. The Browns, though, are actually going to be kind of an unknown variable because of their new quarterback. No longer you don't really have the Baker Mayfield. Now you got that Deshaun Watson kid who he's got some wheels, so he can actually either burn your defense or you never know. So that I think that's going to end up being a little bit tougher game than you might think. So
the Watson game or the Browns game, sorry, we should just call them the Watsons. It doesn't really intimidate me as a Bucs fan. I'm not a player, but I can tell you it doesn't intimidate me as a Bucs fan because what else do they have? They have Nick Chubb.
Yeah. If you're that's pretty much all you need. If you've got a quarterback that can, of course, buy you some time, you can even just throw just to the flat, just bing, bang, boom, right down the field. You establish your run because now you're loosening your defense because of the quarterback. He may scramble, he may move. Next thing you know, you bring in Chubb, who's going to be able to 7, 8, 10, 12 yards a pop. I'm just saying. Do I see the Bucs losing to them? Not necessarily. I'm just saying that there's a possibility. It's just going to be a little bit tougher game than you might think, and that could. Yeah,
you're going to see a different Bucs offensive scheme this year. It's not going to be the throw it deep and move the chains on every down that we can. It's going to be a little more meticulous. You're going to see a lot more ground game. You're going to see a lot more use of the backs in the receiving game. I don't think you're going to see not that they're going to go away from the no risk it, no biscuit since, Arians is out, but they might just go away from that whole identity that they had and go more towards something you'd see in New England. I mean, You're going to see a more methodical movement of the ball. You're going to see a lot more grinded out. We've got new offensive linemen with Shaq Mason going to be, he's going to be leaned on a lot, especially in the run game. There's going to be a battle for the other guard spot. Donovan Smith still, he's not a great left tackle, but he's probably the best left tackle option the Bucs have. Even if free agency is open, you're not going to see, a good left tackle in free agency anyway. So they're top 4 offensive line right now.
So you got Edelman coming to Tampa and Gronk re-signing and everything like that?
I think Gronk resigns after OTAs. After everything gets said and done, Gronk will be back. If not, I don't think it's a big step down. You've got Cameron Brate, who's a starter on every other team in the league. Maybe Kansas City, he's not. There's a couple teams he's not, but he's a starting tight end in the league. He's got great hands. He's not a great run blocker, but he's serviceable. He'll chip for you. He's not Rob Gronkowski, no, but I think he's serviceable. And then you got the new tight end in Otten, who's great hands. His ability to block isn't as great as Gronk's, but his want and desire to block gives you something to play with and gives you something to build with. So I don't think it's a step down as you think it would be if he's gone. But so then let's look at the Falcons. We're in the South. We might as well stay in the South for a little bit. We got 18 minutes. So Falcons face the Saints week 1 at home. Take the L, right? It's an interdivision game. You're at home. It's the home opener, but you're the Falcons. You got a new offensive scheme coming in because you have a new quarterback. Your offense is basically going to be predicated on how well Pitts can get open, and if the utility knife Cordero Patterson is as good as he was last year, because if he's not, you're not going anywhere anyway. Then you go to the Rams. That's an L. You might have a shot beating Seattle week 3 in Seattle. If Seattle finds a quarterback, though, they could be a team that you could have not a contender, but a team you have to worry about somewhat. And then they go to the Browns. Or they have the Browns at home. That's a win for the Browns. Then they got the Bucs. That's a win for the Bucs. They got the Niners, and as much as it pains me to say this, that's a win for the Niners. They go to Cincinnati. It's a win for the Bengals. They host the Panthers at home. Week 8. I think they might get a win there. I think they might beat the Panthers week 8 for their first real win of the year. Week 9 against the Chargers, so we're back at 1-8. What do you guys think? You guys have any other thoughts on that? Do you really think they could beat the Seahawks? That's the only other game I have a question on. I don't think they can, but
it's at Seattle. That place is tough to play in.
Right, that's what my thought was. And if Seattle finds a quarterback that can at least manage the game, they could pull a 9-8, 8-9 record. So I got them 2-7 after the first 9. Panthers are basically the same thing. It's like the same team. We're just going to put a different helmet and jersey on them. They open against the Browns. That's a loss. They go to New York. It's a loss. They'll host the Saints. Loss. Host the Cardinals. Loss. Host the Niners. Loss. At the Rams. Loss. Host the Bucs. Wait for it. Loss. At Atlanta. I already said I think Atlanta wins that game, and then they're at the Bengals. Loss. I know it's bleak and whatnot, and I know I'm a Bucs fan, so maybe I'm a little more harsh, a little partial, if you will. But I don't have them winning the first 9 weeks of the season. I don't see a win there. It's not a tough schedule, but maybe the Giants. Maybe. Who do you see them beating? Browns, Giants, Saints, Cardinals, Niners, Rams, Bucs, Falcons, Bengals. First 9.
If it was the Bears, undefeated.
If it was most teams. But seriously, I don't see them. They might beat the Falcons.
That actually makes that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Then you got the Saints. Saints got the Falcons. That's a win. The Bucs already said they win that game. At the Panthers, that's a win. They host the Vikings. I think they could beat Minnesota. So right now I have the Saints at 4-0.
And that game is in London.
Right.
London game.
Right.
Who do you got as quarterback for the Panthers?
Oof. I mean,
do you have Christian McCaffrey in the backfield or not?
Oof. That's the point. So you got Sam Darnold or you've got Howell, right? Ain't that his last name? Sam Howell?
Yeah.
Or you have Christian McCaffrey, and then you have what? I mean, seriously, they're hurting in Carolina. But so back to the Saints. They got the Vikings. I think they can win that game. The Seattle in New Orleans, that I think is a winnable game. I think they'll take their loss to the Bengals. I think they lose to the Cardinals at Arizona. They lose to the Raiders at home, and I have them beating the Ravens at home. So, I mean, honestly, by week 9, it's going to be same as it always has been the last couple of years. Bucs, Saints competing for the number 1 spot in the AFC or the NFC South. But
I think it's a little bit of easier division that makes it a little bit easier. I think that's probably why they packed on that schedule for Tampa Bay, especially in the early going, because that'll actually kind of sort of even the playing field, so to speak. For them to kind of sort of get their thing going. And to answer some of Jerry's questions, because there's 102 of them. So Baker Mayfield to Seattle, I think would be interesting actually. Seattle is a rough place to play, of course, but
he played in Cleveland. How much worse can it be?
You'd be surprised. You could be going to the. Anyway, ask Kyle Trask how that goes. But anyway, you got the Bucs starting 0-10, which, and of course Tom Brady retires. Absolutely, that's a 50%er. Well,
so seriously though,
all 5 birds in the same year.
Why? Okay, Jerry doesn't have time to come on because he's busy. I get that, but who comes up with to beat the first 5 bird teams in a season? I mean, who had the time to sit and research that?
Oh, it's probably something we heard on TV or on radio or something like that.
Oh, you're saying Jerry didn't do that himself?
What?
So, but.
Well, this since we're on the Saints, I actually wanted to throw this question at you, Mike. How do you guys feel about the Jarvis Landry signing?
I'm going to steal one of Andy's running jokes on the show. Jarvis Landry wasn't a solid number 2 in Cleveland, right? And now he's going from Baker Mayfield to Jameis Winston. I mean, really, is it that much of a change? He's not a solid number 2. He's not going to be a solid number 2 there. He runs good routes, but he's older. You got Michael Thomas already taking all the slants off the – I mean, if there's a playbook for the Saints and there's a slant on that page, Michael Thomas is running that route. Nobody else gets those. No one else is allowed to run them. So what are you going to do? What, Landry on a fly? He's slow. He's not a fast wide receiver. So what?
With the addition of Olave as their first round draft pick.
So there's
and you forget about you still have Alvin Kamara that can come out of the backfield, catch passes.
If he can come out of prison. I mean, is he going to be in prison by then? What's going on with that? I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything on that. I mean, he was arrested, yada yada yada. Then it just kind of got swept away. I mean, I didn't hear anything on it.
I haven't either.
But who cares? Is he really gonna? Does AK-41 make Landry better?
But does Landry help make the offense better, knowing that it is? I mean, theoretically, it is another weapon. Even though he may not be the solid number 2, he's still another person. He's still a
He's a body.
tenured receiver.
There's a reason why he was a free agent for as long as he was.
Attitude?
He doesn't have it. I mean, he doesn't have that. He can catch, but he doesn't have that breakaway speed you're looking for. He runs good routes, but I don't think he's going to be anything more than a number 3, maybe number 4 by the end of the season. So, no, I'm not worried about Landry. There was a reason he was still there. I mean, I think you're going to see Thomas open up as your number 1, Olive, whatever his name is, 2, Landry 3, and then whoever else they can find off the street to fill it out. I mean, Jameis Winston is a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. Jameis Winston's a good quarterback, but he doesn't have that jump ball receiver. Who's he going to throw to? Who's going to out jump? You don't have it there. That's the issue.
I think another big key too on the Saints season is how this offense is actually going to run now that Sean Payton's not the head coach.
I agree, but their defense is sound. Everyone overlooks the Saints defense. The Saints defense isn't bad by any means. They added depth in the secondary. They added, as much as it pains me to say it, their secondary is solid. You got the Honey Badger down there now, who's not as great as he used to be, but he's not a slouch at safety. He's not going to hurt you in any way, either in the run game or the pass. So I mean, you're technically sound back there now. You've got definite leadership in the secondary. So let's break off the schedule real quick, and we got 8 minutes. So let's have your thoughts on who you think your team's best chance for Rookie of the Year is.
You hear crickets? I hear crickets.
Yeah,
I figured that from Chicago.
There's quite a few, actually. I think, it might be a cumulative, Rookies of the Year.
But, I mean, seriously.
So you actually have – maybe it's just partial to being, offensive lineman and things like that. I think the offensive lineman is probably going to end up being the kid that they picked up from Southern. Now, if you're looking at a team Rookie of the Year, or if that's the case, then I think that he's actually going to end up being a little bit more, first off, better than people thought. Oh, he's coming from an FCS school, this, that, the other. He's not used to the competition. Yeah, but he's a big kid, relatively quick. So I think he's going to end up being, especially with the importance of being a left tackle, if he actually beats Jenkins out for that particular spot, I think he would actually end up being the overall Rookie of the Year for the Bears because of the fact of the importance of a left tackle.
Brian?
Interesting. I'm flip-flopping between Christian Watson, the wide receiver they picked up, and Devontae Wyatt, the defensive tackle. I think Devontae Wyatt will probably have more of an impact early, just because of the fact you have to get right with Aaron Rodgers as a receiver. I don't know. I think probably I would probably put my chips on Devontae Wyatt as the team Rookie of the Year.
Really, I think with Watson, you might have an actual shot at NFL Rookie of the Year. His catch radius is insane.
It's insane, but also remember he's coming from a program. I mean, granted, the program's good, but it's a lower division. I mean,
there's 2 things you can't teach: height and speed. And he's got both of them. He can jump out of the gym.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope he does win the Rookie of the Year, but I don't know. I mean, I know the talent's there. I just think with coming from, the adjustment coming from a smaller school in a smaller division to going to basically jumping to the big boys, we'll see.
Right on. So down in Tampa, we had a huge draft. I mean, really, but you pick up Logan Hall, who's now expected to take over for can't even say his last name, Sue, or his first name, Sue. I don't think it's going to be as easy a transition as the Bucs are hoping. I really don't know if he's going to be able to fill those shoes. But I really am looking at Zion McCollum. cornerback, Sam Houston State. He's got the height. He's got the speed. His athleticism is off the charts. He's coming into a secondary that struggled some last year. Sean Murphy-Bunting going to be battling for his job, battling for playing time, because if Zion comes in like I think he's going to, he might be starting week 6, week 7, nickel corner for the Bucs, forcing Bunting just to, spot duty, rotational corner. So I really think Zion McCollum is the Bucs' best pick and honestly best option for Rookie of the Year for Tampa Bay. Not for the NFL, just for the Bucs. So that's all I got today, gentlemen. I'm pretty spent. You guys got anything you want to add? We're closing in on the end of the show anyway, so
Yes.
add.
Yes. I know we did this show obviously doing, our way too early predictions and stuff like that. Obviously things can change. We haven't seen any preseason. We haven't seen how these rookies will adapt to their new environments and stuff like that. But the one thing I'm still interested to see is like there are still some intriguing free agents still on the market, whether maybe their best days have gone past, but still, if any of these teams, if any of our teams could pick up one of these guys on a cheaper deal, you could easily see win totals boosted a little bit. I truly think that the shuffling's not over yet, and I really want to see how things progress as we get into August. So,
oh yeah, it's gonna. We're making these predictions just based on our affinity for our teams, really. Let's be honest. But there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of people still out there. Julio Jones still has no job.
There has been some, potential rumors. You have like the rumor of a rumor that he may be looking in Chicago, or Chicago might be looking for him to potentially be a wide receiver in Chicago.
It couldn't hurt. Give you good veteran experience in the wide receiver room.
I actually read something last night that rumors are true that the Colts are kind of trying to get him.
And again, chemistry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. But
considering, who's the Colts quarterback these days?
Matt Ryan.
That's it.
Yep.
They may as well go out together, right? Indy is where you go if you're going to retire a quarterback right now, ain't it? Ain't that what we said?
Well, it wasn't Indy's problem last year. Besides them choking defensively against the Jaguars, it wasn't their biggest glaring problem a quarterback that could be more than just a serviceable quarterback. And obviously injuries were depleting the wide receiver core, and they really don't have that one guy. So,
Pittman gets overlooked a lot. I really think he's going to be a star in the league. He's solid. He's definitely a solid number 2 if Julio comes. So Jerry gave us his Niners prediction.
Yeah.
Oh, Jerry.
12-5. Niners 12-5.
They're going to lose in Chicago, so.
We already said that. I agree.
I think whatever he's doing to his yard is making him high or something.
Yeah, he's a little too close to the gas can. So,
too much for
well, gentlemen, it's that time. I didn't even get on soapbox today, Andy. Your shirt's a fail. It's a cool shirt.
We spent like 30 minutes on the Bucks talking about nothing but nonsense and
I don't think we did. I didn't hear nonsense.
You're not going to hear nonsense because that's all you spew is nonsense.
Yeah. Anyway.
And solid number 2s.
Right. I guess we'll see you guys in a week or so.
Sounds good.
All right. We will be back next week.